Oh, there's one. This one.
There you go.
Welcome to Better Credit, Better Home. Your source for the latest local and national news that can impact you if you are in the market for real estate. Here are your hosts, the Kingwood mortgage guy, Mike Durr, who uses his 25 years as a mortgage professional to help people improve their credit, and Joe Salas, an accomplished home inspector, real estate agent, and trainer of new agents for Byrd Property International. Together, they will help you understand what you need to know to get the most out of your real estate investment. Let's get started.
Let's get started.
Let's do it, Mike.
The more I listen to that and listen to all the flaws in it, the more I like it. I think it's perfectly consistent with the way we operate.
It's a fingerprint. That's right.
Real estate. So, Joe, I apologize to you for missing last week. I think I mentioned that I was up to my neck in alligators and had to crawl out of the swamp. And The truth was, on Labor Day, we just were moving and shaking the whole time. And I really got back and I had some business to do and this, that, and the other. So I just didn't put anything together, and I didn't want to just come out here and just be completely not prepared. So anyway, forgive me for that, but I appreciate you being here for me, and I'm glad you're here today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
So we got, I don't know if I told you this, but I have invited a friend of mine that is an insurance guy. And at some point when he can make it, of course he could make it last week when I couldn't make it, about what's going on with insurance, homeowners insurance, and that whole thing. I think that'll be some good things. And I also think that he'll give us some insights into how to make the premium cheaper. I had a little bit of a conversation with him yesterday, and one of my customers got a quote for their insurance. Are you ready for this? $7,200 for homeowners insurance.
I pay $5 a year.
Well, and so the first thing he said, this might be good for you, is there's obviously the deductible, and the deductible, a lot of them go for 1% deductible, 2% big savings. So that's one of them, but that's about as much as I know about it. There's a lot of different coverages on there that you do. And
I can't wait to have him on. What's his name?
Chris Boyer. He's the son of Steve Boyer. Steve Boyer's had an Allstate agency here in the Kingwood area forever. And Chris is been doing this for I don't know how long, but he's kind of taken over his dad's practice. His dad still works there, and his dad's a friend of mine too. But what I find is I refer, or have been referring, about 5 guys consistently, and 3 out of the 5 are people I did loans with. So I helped them with their home purchase or something. So I like to refer them. But Chris consistently wins the bid, and I don't know if it's because he's. My thought is that he's just very aggressive and he's doing it the right way. And the other thing is you can call him on the phone. That's what I think separates them from the progressives and some of the other big companies that you get is you just don't get a lot of personal help. And that sometimes thinks it's important. But that's neither here nor there. The nature of our conversation today is going to be about what are the 2 major things that are holding real estate down in fall of 2023. And I didn't put this in the presentation because I stumbled across it after I'd put most of it together. But this is a series of questions, or actually comments, that Gen Z and millennials are talking about why they're not buying a home. And I'll give you a quick look at this. It's the first one says, I'm not interested in buying a home. And this is 20 to 20. Well, actually, that's about 15 to 20% of the Gen Z people. They're just not interested in owning a home. And they probably are still living at home, and there's no reason for them to do that. The regular upkeep, maintenance would be too expensive. I don't want to put the work, effort, or maintain a home I own. Recent loss of employment, yourself or someone in your household. Need to pay off student loans first. It's a valid one. Available homes are too expensive. And I don't know if this would even show up on here, but these charts go out and 50% of the people said that one was available homes are too expensive. Mortgage rates are too high. That was not the second longest, but pretty much. Ability to afford mortgage payments problem, ability to save for the down payment. So ability to save for the down payment and available homes are too expensive. And it just so happens, well, there's a couple more. Lack of homes for sale and lack of financial support from family or friends. But those two things that they said there were kind of fell right into place into what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
So let's just put it up there. If I can do this. There we go. All right. Make it bigger for me. There we go. So what are the two major factors? Well, shoot, we just talked about them. First off, it was available homes are too expensive. And why are homes too expensive? Well, because there's not enough of them. This is the list of the things. What are we going to cover? Inventory available. It's a problem. There's just not enough inventory out there. And we're going to talk about some of the reasons for that. History of houses being built. We're going to show in a chart, and boy, I got charts running out the gazoo this time. That there just haven't been building homes as fast as they have in the past. Homeowners staying in home. That's I think a key one is that people like myself are not moving because shoot, I've got a 2.5% interest rate. Why would I move to a 6.5% interest? Or today, man, rates are.
Don't say it, Mike.
I get ahead of myself. There is a hint that inventory is getting a little bit better, not a lot. Interest rates, I've got a chart that's got an interest rate kind of look at inflation and the interest rates for the last 50 years. I think that'll be interesting. And then the consumer confidence is down, but it seems to be getting a little bit better. So that's kind of where we go. I'm here with Joe Salas. Joe is a realtor with Byrd Properties International. He's also an inspector, and he also teaches and trains the agents at the Byrd Properties. So he's a really good one to call if you have real estate questions, and I've got his number right here just in case you wanted to write that down. So please do that, and we'll go on to the next one. So average annual inventory of homes. This, I don't know how well you can see the bottom chart, but on the left side, or my left, yeah, it'd be my, I don't know. On the left side of the screen, this goes back to 1999. And
yeah,
then,
I see it.
You can all the way over to now.
Yeah.
And the inventory of homes, you can see it really went up and started 2006, 7, and 8, peaked at 2008. And then they just started declining from that point on. And of course, we know that in 2006, 7, and 8 was a major economic crisis. And it was also a major crisis in the mortgage industry because loans were fast and easy back in those days. I'm telling you, you could basically get, well, there were two programs that were the standard. If you had a 580 FICO, you could do 100% financing. If you had a 600 FICO score, you could do a stated income 100% financing loan. And there was feasting on homes at that point because you could borrow all the money. Anyway, but as you see, as the inventory has gone down over the years, this about 2020 and 21, that's when it reached the low. And of course, that's right as COVID happened there on the the far right side, and home building kind of came to a screeching halt. Now, it didn't come to a complete screeching halt, but the blockchain, the materials, having the work was very much restricted. It was hard to do just about anything during 20 and 21 because of COVID, and that has put a crimp. Now, that's not to say that's the main reason, but the fact that the inventory is so low now and rates are high. So those are two big ones. I think I always like to look at these kind of charts just because you can look back and see the history. The second chart is the single family housing units completed, and then starting in 2010, you see that the shortage of homes that were done, 14 straight years below the 52-year average. So the average is less, like maybe 1 year here. That was 1980, 83, 84, which was a tough economic time also for mortgage and real estate. But that's how we got here.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see it still. Even though inventory is slightly improved, you can still see the restricted inventory on the market.
The crazy thing that is the fact that we're loan locked is, I think, one of the major factors right now why the inventory is a problem, but the fact that rates are high means there's going to be less buyers. But it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It also negatively affects the sellers that want to move. And anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. I don't know how we're going to get out of it. I thought this was a good one too. Today's homeowners are staying in their houses for an average of 9+ years. And what this chart shows is if I'm reading that back right, 1965 is on the left side, and the average is anywhere from 5 to 7 years, mostly 6. And then since 2010, it's gone up from 8 to 10 years. So just people are living in their houses longer. And of course, I think it'll actually even get higher now because of the artificial negative of having, the people that are in this, 2019, if you owned a home in 2019, you refinanced. I mean, everybody that could refinance did refinance, and it's just going to make that whole, I guess it's like it's not, I don't want to say a bubble, but it's a blip on the map. It's going to cause and keep the reduction in homes. Now, I think if rates come down into, let's just say the 5 somewhere, I think there's going to be a dramatic amount of people wanting to sell their home.
I just wrote a blog post about this last week, Mike.
Did you? Tell me about it.
Titled "What the hell is going on?" And then the first couple lines I said, "Have you ever seen a plane that looks like it's not moving? It's just steady in the air." And it's kind of how we are. And my comments were exactly what you just said. There's buyers out there that have come to the realization that, hey, I'm going to have to do 7 right now. Okay. There's sellers out there that want to sell, but they're cozy with their 2, 3, 4% interest rates on their loans, seeing these 7% out there going, I don't want that. And if they end up having to do that, they're going to have to downsize because that same amount, most likely that same amount of loan is not going to give them the same amount of house on going forward. So it is a perfect storm is the way I put it. And we're looking for those. I think once we get, just like you said, somewhere in the 5s, I think that's where you're going to see capitulation of the people holding off. They're going to say, okay, well, shit, let's do it. Oh, PG-13 today.
Get a bleep on that. Oh, tired. We're live, Joe. So
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So we're both on the same page on that. And I think it's just reality, and it'll be interesting. So here's a thing I thought was good is new listing count. And this is based on August of each of these years. So August in 2017, there were new listings, 500,000 of them, and this nationwide. 2018, there was 492. 2019, 479. And really what it skips 2020, 2021, 2022, because they weren't normal years. But then they come back, and since we're in 2023, they measure that, and that's a pretty substantial reduction there in the listing count. I think on the next one is kind of the same thing. These are active listing count, and again, their numbers are higher because these are active, and you've got bigger numbers. And here, the 2023 is basically half of what each of these listings are, which again goes right at the inventory. So there's just less homes out there. And you come to a place in your life where you have to move. And those are the people that are out there. There's still a good real estate market, but just for less people, right? And so there are people that have to move. They want to move. They can handle the things, but most people are saying, you know what? I think I'm going to wait. So this is one of the early signs or signs we see of listings tick up. Now this chart, I had to study it for a little bit, but this basically 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 are all different colors. And the 2023 color is this dark blue one. That's why it hadn't finished. All of these others are the year. And it shows how this time of year, listings tend to go down because we've had the summer selling season. And people generally think that listing in the September, October, November timeframe, even through December, I think there's a pickup in December. Doesn't show by this chart, though. But if you look at it, you see that there actually has been a pickup between July and probably the middle of August, where there's a little bit of tick up in listing, which means that things are starting to happen a little bit. Maybe some things are breaking free. Have you seen that?
A little bit. I see it in the Woodlands area a little bit, but not much.
Yeah. So when you're talking to the people that you're training in your classes and stuff like that, are these guys all brand new, or is this just anybody new to Jane Byrd that they have the option to go through that stuff?
All brand new agents.
Gotcha. So they wouldn't know anything anyway. So polling. No offense.
I tell them, if anybody told you this was an easy job, they lied to you. If anybody told you it was a cheap job, they lied to you. I mean, this is a very it's challenging, to say the least. Challenging.
Well, yeah. First, you have to be. I mean, you're expected to be an expert at real estate, and the training that I know that they go through to get their license does not make them an expert.
No.
So that's why the whole thing about experienced agents is good. And of course, they can help and they're enthusiastic and I mean, you got to start somewhere. So that's just kind of what it is. All right. This is the chart that I think I like the most. And I don't like it because of the way it's looking right now, but I like it because I think it tells a good story. The inflation is the blue line. The mortgage rates is the green line. And you can see that they kind of track with each other throughout. And of course, this is 1972 here on the left side. And rates, if you look at that, let's see. I wonder, but this 5% is a good area. And you can see, well, actually, I'm looking at the blue line. Yeah. Inflation.
Blue line's inflation, yeah.
Yeah. So the green line is a little more realistic because rates from the time that I was in, and I got in the industry in 1997. So I got about right here when I got in the industry. And rates were in the 8s in that time. And that looks about right. And I guess ever since I got in the business, rates have come down. That's cool. I must have had a big effect on that. But you look over here and you can see that they're up and inflation has come down dramatically. And we don't see that, but based on the numbers, inflation is doing a lot better. And, I know that I've talked to people and they haven't seen that. And maybe a lot of us haven't seen that, but of course, broad-based over the whole United States it is. And what we hope happens is that rates are going to follow that. So that's our hope. But anyway, it's a good chart. And then this is kind of interesting. I've never heard this term before. Have you ever heard the term NEPO homebuyers?
Mm-hmm. What
Well,
does that mean?
What it means is, and it tells us down here, I don't know where they came up with this, 38% of recent homebuyers under age 30 used either a cash gift from a family member or an inheritance in order to afford their down payment. As a result, a large share of young homeowners can be labeled NEPO homebuyers, meaning they receive family money to purchase.
Oh, it's like a play on nepotism, I think, right?
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm a nepo home buyer.
All right. Well, I mean, thank you, family, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
heck yeah. You can't thank them enough.
I think if you're a family member that has the money to give, I think that the amount that you give, and I don't know if the gifter actually grasps the value of that, but to be able to move into a home, which we're both believers that it's probably one of the best and most important investments you'll make in your entire life. And the ability for that investment to grow dramatically over the course of the time that you're in the house. Not only that, but to ramp up and you sell that one, you use the money to get in the next one and next one. It just puts people on a amazing financial ride that is, I mean, the numbers show dramatically better than they'll ever have if they continue to rent. So if you're a family member out there, think about talking to the people that are in your family that you might be able to help. It'll go a long way. And they may not appreciate it like they should now, but they may later, because it's a big deal. Going back to this thing, the ability to save for a down payment, it's hard right now, particularly when the job, there are less jobs out there. They're showing that there are less jobs being created. And so anyway, it's an interesting time, but congratulations to the NEPO homebuyers. The same place I got this article was also talking about the down payment assistant thing. And for those of you that can afford a mortgage, you just don't have the money, there are options there where you can do down payment assistance. And obviously, I'd love for you to call me or Joe, and we can tell you all about that kind of stuff. All right. Consumer confidence weakens. This consumer confidence in home prices weakened. Now, this is a double-edged sword, too, because home prices are going up. And some people would say, well, that's bad news. And I'm going, no, it's not. That's great news. And if you were a home buyer, you would agree that is great news. Matter of fact, you might want to own 10 homes and let home prices go up. But it does make it harder to join the club. And that's what I encourage you to do, is to try to become somebody that is a home owner and reap the benefits of a market that has been, well, I tried to find the chart that showed the number of years that homes have appreciated compared to declined in value. Do you remember us looking at that?
I think so. Yeah, it was about a month ago, I think.
The record was something like, out of the last 80 years, 72 years consistently homes appreciated. There were 2 or 3 years where it depreciated, and then there were 3 or 4 ties where it didn't do anything. And today, because homes are more expensive, and I think that I've got some other data in here that shows that the appreciation this year is going to be surprisingly higher than what we thought at the initial thing. But here's goes. It says percent of Americans in each December who think prices will go down over the next 12 months. Well, so in 2010, 18% thought home prices were going to go down. And then it got less. And then it started in 2021, it went up, and then a real jump in 2022, where, we're seeing the pandemic, we're seeing COVID, where things were just, their business was not normal. 37% thought that prices were going to go down. Well, they didn't. We're starting to show improvement over those people who thought prices were going to go down. And since January, it was 37%, and it has declined every month through July. About half of those people now are under reality that home prices are going to continue to go. And it's because of these 2 major factors. There's not enough homes for sale. There's absolutely not enough homes for sale. Yeah.
And I saw, and I think you're going to mention it later on, but I saw Zillow was forecasting next year something like an 8% appreciative rate.
Yeah, that's just what it shows, and that's what this is. This is like the 6 entities out there that measure month over month percent change in home values, and so I've got Case-Shiller, FHFA, CoreLogic, Zillow, Black Knight, and Freddie Mac, and this is their history. This is not, analysis. Each one of them measures a little bit different sector. I'll give you an example. FHFA does not, one of these, I'm not sure it's FHFA. I have to look at my notes again, but they don't, one of them doesn't count cash purchases. Or maybe these guys do count cash purchases. And cash purchases are usually going to be usually when you pay cash, you get a little bit better deal, but not all of them do count that. But if you look at it, they're consistent in that there was a period, and this is the end of 22 and the start of 23. Okay. I'll just make it real easy. Each one of them measured a time when the value of homes seemed to dip, but it's come back.
Yeah.
And these are additional 2%, 4%. I think that says 5. I can't remember that one. 7%, another 7%, and they've got appreciation this year in somewhere conservatively in the 6 to 9% range when you add this all up. Now, when you buy a $400,000, let's just say, make it realistic. Let's say we buy a $300,000 home, and you have a 9% increase in the value from one year to the next. That adds up pretty good. If I'm doing my simple math, that's like $27,000 in equity in the first year. That's one of the reasons we buy real estate. Because you're leveraging. We talked about this before. We leverage the money. We're not spending $300,000. We're spending in some cases $10,000, and on that $10,000, we just made $27,000 because the thing that we bought grew in value. And so I just can't stress enough that to get in the opportunity to buy a house, or at least to put yourself in a position. It's not easy. It's like anything that's worth something. You're going to have to work at it a little bit, but I think the rewards, and again, you have to be, always have to give the disclaimer that, you can't just go out and buy anything. You've got to have somebody smart that's working with you to help you find things, to look for all the right things that characteristically will help you to buy a good value out there so that it'll appreciate. All right, estimated home price performance. This is the same group. December to December is forecasted in quarter 3. From 2023, they're saying 3.32 on this chart, but it's really much higher than that. I'd say it's double that. They expect in 24, 2% increase, in 25, 3%, in 26, 3%, and 27, 4%. And I would guess that these are all pretty conservative numbers. Projections of forecasted home prices. So if you're thinking, I'm going to wait until prices come down,
don't do it.
Bad idea.
Don't do it.
2023 year home price forecast. This is kind of the same thing. In this case, the entity that's doing this forecasting is listed there: MBA, Fannie Mae, Morgan Stanley, AEI, Zillow, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, and Home Price Expectation Survey. All of their forecasts were negative, and they've kind of realized that it's not negative. They probably thought that the COVID thing and the way the economy was going to go was going to be worse than it was. And it turns out that in homes, it's a bright spot. This is another thing that we talk about is when you have inflation, what do you invest in? Well, you can invest in gold, you can invest in stocks, but a lot of smart people invest in real estate. So that probably would be a good idea. 70.7% of mortgage rates less than 4%. So this is where we talked about before.
Yep.
26% of the people have less than a 3% mortgage. 44.7% have less than a 4% mortgage. So that's 70% right there of people that are operating in a mortgage that it's just hard to give up. And then you've got, other people with 4 and 5. These are, still good rates. And then, the last group are the people that are probably buying this year. This is, I thought was interesting too, and we're almost at the end. Now, lock-in rates limit new inventory, and it says it like it's got the same chart. Probably not selling. This is the 3% group. We're not selling. Must think hard before selling. And then probably and yes are the guys, in the 5 and greater than 6% range. So it's just what it is. So I put this together this afternoon. These are today rates. If you got a mortgage rate quote today at or below any of these numbers, you're doing pretty good. The 7.25 on 30-year fixed, that's as high as I've ever had posted on the show.
Yeah, it is.
15 years, 6.875, jumbo 7.375. I looked at the 5/1 arm; it wasn't even worth posting. It was FHA 6.625 and the VA 7 1/8. So anyway, that is what I had today,
Gotta
Joe.
turn it around, man. I have hopes. If you saw that inflation versus mortgage chart that you showed earlier, you could see, inflation rises, mortgage rates rise. Well, the inflation is on its downward kind of slope. Let's hope those mortgage rates catch up to that. But I have hope.
Well, I saw another thing that gave me some hope too. It was the Fed is meeting, they meet every month, but the article I read said that the Fed will probably not, probably is not a very solid thing, but they probably will not raise interest rates or look at raising interest rates again until March of 2024. And I thought that is a good thing. So other than that, Joe, always good to be with you, my brother, and appreciate you. And listen, if you watched today and you liked any of this information and would like to reach out to Joe or myself, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to share this. We'd like you to like it, make comments. If you think it's silly, then mark that down too. Comment on that. And other than that, Joe, hopefully we'll see you next week. I'll look forward to it.
All right, man. I'll see you then.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Bye.